Right now on the National Weather Desk, tornadoes strike the south.
It's about a foot deep, driven about a foot deep into the ground.
This is nothing nobody want to go through. I promise you. But I feel good because my husband and I are alive.
While the West braces for another atmospheric river of rain and snow.
Power outages are a high possibility.
We'll also have a visual explanation of how those storms come together.
Some atmospheric rivers can hold enough moisture that they can actually equal the Mississippi River.
In the east, warm weather impacts Vermont's maple syrup production.
This early season sap is going to be a lesser of sugar content.
And how a kayaker rescued a bald eagle in need.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
And good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. Tornado watches are posted in the south this morning as a line of severe weather moves east. The same system produced several confirmed and likely tornadoes in Alabama and Arkansas. We have team coverage this morning, starting with meteorologist Todd Yacobian and dramatic video from a high school in Jessieville, Arkansas.
The Jessieville School District gave us this video of the tornado going across the 50-yard line yesterday at around 2:40 in the afternoon. That's the tornado. Look at the light pole snapped in half. 3 of the 4 light poles were snapped and are on the ground. Only 1 made it. Let me show you some of the damage too here on the field, the football field. These are 2 ceiling fans. What's left of 2 ceiling fans from a home, again, that was about 300 yards away, a white one and a brown one. The winds of this tornado were so strong and the ground was especially soft. So look at the wood wedged into the ground. Let me show you how deep this is. This is one of the pieces of wood from the lady's house. And we'll see how deep it is. It's about a foot deep, driven about a foot deep into the ground. So yes, it was an EF1 tornado, max winds of 102 miles per hour. But you see what the damage it can cause. Right now, I can tell you no reports of any serious injuries, 2 very minor injuries, and the cleanup continues.
And now let's go to Alabama, where 2 rounds of storms slammed parts of the state. A house was destroyed in the first round. The couple who was inside while the storm tattered their home is thankful for their lives. Valerie Bell has more from Marion and Perry County.
This is nothing nobody want to go through. I promise you. But I feel good because my husband and I are alive.
That's the message Sylvia Hester and her husband Nathaniel have after Tuesday afternoon storms destroyed their home.
First the tree fell. When the tree fell, then the house started moving. And then when it turned and dropped us back down, it was like, like we pick up a person and just drop them back down, and then the water started coming in everywhere.
What do you think when you look around at all of this?
We are blessed.
We are blessed. And I mean, we are actually blessed because my husband and I, we couldn't get out of the house. So my son that came in prior to the front door and got us out. So, we weren't hurt or anything, but shook up, yeah. I'm not gonna lie, we shook up, but we're not hurt.
Sheet metal hangs from limbs. You can see uprooted trees, down power lines, and pieces of debris scattered all around. But you can also see how many people came here to offer a hand. What does it mean to you to have all your family come out here?
Wonderful, wonderful. Families don't stick together anymore. And when you got a family that cuddles together, it means a lot. It means a whole lot.
A blessing there. There were also tornadoes in the Midwest. Multiple tornadoes caused damage across central Illinois, damaging a bowling alley and taking down power lines. And just north of Decatur, a grain bin was blown onto Highway 51. Fortunately, there are no reports of injuries, and residents are still evaluating the damage there. For a look at today's threat in the south, along with all the rain heading to California once again, let's turn to meteorologist Brian Vandegraff. And happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, we're watching down to the south. So that active weather that you showed from yesterday from Alabama, Mississippi, and parts of eastern Louisiana now moves eastward, panhandle of Florida, portions of Georgia into South Carolina as well. Those are the risks today for some more strong storms, isolated tornado threat, but nonetheless, the threat still exists. And then, yeah, we take ourselves off to the west coast where we have this giant atmospheric river of moisture that'll be streaming in. This system, this classic comma shape moving eastward, is going to pummel the west coast. We're talking about winds 30 to 50 miles per hour. 3 to 7, maybe 10 inches of rain that'll lead to mudslides. We could see roads issues with flooding. We could see lots of damage along the coast. I mean, this has the power almost equal to a hurricane. We'll describe how it gets formed coming up in just a bit, but the West Coast is going to be slammed over the next couple of days.
And all that rain is going to fall on the ground that is already saturated from heavy rain over the past few weeks. In Butte County, north of Sacramento, officials are being proactive here and gearing up for the storm. They are inspecting low-lying areas that could flood and making sure all of those drains are clear. Firefighters and deputies are working with PG&E.
We've got high winds predicted as well. That could knock trees down, so power outages are a high possibility. So, making sure that you've got things prepared for, to be without power. You've got, wood stacked up, or maybe you find another place to stay for a little bit if you're in an area that's, maybe hard to access.
And county officials are also urging people to have a bag of essentials and supplies in their car just in case people get caught out in that storm. One piece of good news from all of that precipitation is that the Sierra snowpack is 177% above average. That's the best start in 40 years and is great news for California's drought. The state gets about 30% of its water from the snowpack. California's Department of Water Resources says it's still critical for people to conserve water there. And now moving to Middle Georgia, rocked by an earthquake. It's not uncommon for Georgia to have earthquakes, but they are typically small and tend to sound like rumbles of thunder, and usually folks don't even feel it. But this time, a woman living in the area says her whole house shook briefly.
Just a few seconds. I just went outside to check on my dogs. I really didn't know what it was. And then afterwards, I'm like, that had to have just been a little earthquake. I mean, the whole house just kind of vibrated real quick.
Utah is another place where small earthquakes are not unusual. There's been a series of small quakes north of Salt Lake City. They started a few days ago, but it seems like the shaking just won't stop. The largest, a 3.1 magnitude earthquake that happened Tuesday afternoon. Lincoln Graves is in Logan with all of the details.
There's no other explanation.
A first glance at Sandra Rick's front door and you might think this window is decorative. Instead, Sandra believes this is earthquake damage.
Sunday, we noticed this, and so we're pretty sure, because this wasn't like this previous, that this happened with that first earthquake Sunday morning.
The first of a handful of quakes that experts are tracking closely.
There's been about 10 small magnitude earthquakes.
Brady Cox is a USU professor and earthquake engineer. He says quakes this small generally don't cause damage, but it's not unheard of.
It's definitely possible that if you're really close to the epicenter of even a small earthquake, that there can be very localized damage.
Sandra does live close in the Benson area where the epicenters are. There's been other damage too, like cracks reported in ceilings. Brady says people generally shouldn't be worried about small quakes, but they should be aware of Utah's major quake potential.
These smaller earthquakes can just be a reminder that in general we need to be ready.
It's enough to get Sandra paying attention. She admits she's worried, losing sleep over the shaking.
I couldn't sleep. They just made me so nervous, so I just came downstairs and read. And I'm learning to crochet, so I just crocheted through probably 3 of them.